Welcome to my channel. Let's mix it up. Today I'm going to be making my famous lasagna that everybody's been liking and commenting and sharing about. So today I'm going to show you step-by-step instructions on how to make it. Before we get to the cooking, I'm going to go over my ingredients so you guys can be prepped and ready to cook along with me. So first thing I have is lasagna noodles. They're not high fancy quality. I just bought some lasagna noodles. So next I have the creamy melt Philadelphia cheese. Then I have minced garlic. I don't know if you guys can see that. That's the brand I like to use. I have a single egg. It's already cracked. I have to make sure that my eggs are good. I have ricotta cheese. That's also the brand I like to use. Ground beef. You can make as much as you want to. It's just me and Quentin here, so I don't use that much. And then roasted garlic, pasta sauce. The next part I'm going to show you are my spices and oils I'm going to be using. So I have my onion powder, olive oil, black pepper, garlic salt with parsley in it, but you can just use normal garlic salt. You can also use seasoning salt, Italian seasoning, red crushed peppers, and Parmesan cheese to top it off with. So the first step you're going to do, you're going to start by boiling your noodles. So I already have my water boiling on the stove. For noodles, I like to use at least 10 noodles because you can always like chop them or cut them whenever they're done cooking. And it's okay if they stick out just a little bit. As long as you just put them in some hot water so they can boil. So now with the noodles boiling, what you want to do, you want to salt your water. You can use a generous amount because this is all the salt you will use for this whole dish. So I just like to just sprinkle some salt in there. It's going to look like a lot, but you won't be able to taste it. So now my noodles have been boiling for about 3 minutes or so, but you see how they're starting to soften and they can start going down into the water. You just want to make sure they just all get boiled nice and thoroughly. Okay. Rinse my spoon. Alright, and then we're going to move on to our cooking oil. So what I used olive oil. This is the brand I like to use right here. And I just used about a small amount just to cover my pan because the meat I use releases a lot of oil, so you don't want a greasy dish. So with the oil, I'm just going to fry off some of my minced garlic. And this just gives the dish a little bit more flavor. It's up to you how much garlic you would like to use. I just use like 2.5 scoops. Okay, so you're gonna wait for that to get a nice golden brown, and you're gonna add your meat. So next step we're gonna do is season our meat before we add it to our pan. So next we're gonna flavor our meat with all the seasonings that I have that I showed earlier. What I like to do, I like to massage my seasonings into my meat instead of just topping it off inside the hot pan because it gets better flavor and better distribution. So first thing I'm going to use is the black pepper. And you just want to use enough because this is all the seasoning I'm going to do in the whole dish. It's just in the meat. Just enough to cover. Then we're going to use our onion powder. Just like that. Going to use our garlic salt with parsley. Like I said, you can just use garlic salt as well. The parsley just gives it a little bit more flavor. And again, you can always go heavy-handedly because this is all the seasoning you're going to do. Then Italian seasoning. It's kind of hard to come out. Okay. And then we're going to use our Creole seasoning. And like again, you can just use seasoning salt if you don't have this. Okay. And last but not least, this is optional. I like a little bit of heat in my dish, so I use the crushed red peppers. And you only need a little bit of this. So next, with clean hands, make sure you wash your hands, everybody. You want to massage your meat. Almost like making meatballs or hamburgers for a cookout. And I don't know if my cameraman can get it, but I hear my garlic sizzling on the pan over there. That means that's about to be ready. And again, you can adjust as you need to. Right here, I might add just a little bit more garlic salt and Creole seasoning, so a little bit garlic salt and Creole. Make sure whatever hand was touching your meat does not touch your seasonings, because you can get sick from that. So with my opposite dry hand, I'm gonna grab my seasoning, pop the lid, and sprinkle that in there. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit more Creole. Look like that. You want to be able to see your seasoning in your meat. That means it's been seasoned very well. So I can basically see everything I season with in my meat. So once it looks like that, you want to bring it over to your frying garlic. And if you can see there's a little bit of brown going on, that's how you know that your garlic is ready. So you're going to do little clumps of meat and disperse it everywhere. And make sure your oil's not too hot so it doesn't go splashing you and burn you. Okay, and once your meat's in, you want to go wash your hands immediately without touching anything else, just so you won't get sick. Alright guys, so now moving back on to your noodles. At this moment in time, they've been going for about, I would say 10 minutes. And you see that they're all broken down, soaked wet. And you don't have to cook them all the way through, because again, they'll be baked in the oven. So right now, you just want to make sure they're not hard. If you can press something through them without hearing like a crunch or anything, then they should be good to go. Make sure you drain slowly so it doesn't pop up and burn you. And one thing in the kitchen that nobody really tells you is that any starchy products, as far as pasta or anything, you're supposed to rinse with cold water to get the remaining of the starch off. So after I drain my pasta noodles, I'm going to move on to my meat. So we're going to finish this up. So right now this has been going for about 3 minutes or so, but you see the bottom starting to brown just a little bit. So you don't want big chunks in your lasagna, so you're just going to break these up just a little bit. Putting down your meat, this is what it looks like right now. It's done all this browning and everything. So it should be little tiny chunks where you can just pick up and you should have multiple chunks on your fork. So next thing we're going to do is move on to our sauce. I build my sauce in my same pan that I cook my meat in. Do not drain it because the grease gives it more flavor. That's where all your flavor is. It just drains out into there. You can drain it if you want to, but it's just going to be not flavorful. So what I do, I'll take my sauce. I use the roasted garlic pasta sauce. And you just want to dump enough in there to coat. Like majority of the whole jar should go in there. Make sure you mix that around. And remind you, all your seasoning is in this sauce. That's another reason we don't dump or drain our meats. So all that flavor is just being sopped up by the sauce that we just added. You want to allow this to at least boil for about 3 to 5 minutes. Once it starts bubbling up, then we'll move on to our next step. Okay, so now for the next step, as you see that the sauce is starting to bubble, I've already stirred it about 2 or 3 times just to keep the heat consistent. So once it starts bubbling like that, you want to take it off the heat. Make sure it's on a cold eye. Make sure you turn your current eye that you're just cooking on off. So you want to take it off the heat because what I'm going to do, I'm going to add an egg to it. And if you keep it on the heat, you're gonna end up with scrambled eggs inside of your pasta. Your pasta. I already have my egg cracked. You're just gonna whisk that up. Make sure you whisk it good enough to where it looks homogeneous, to where it looks like it's all together. So it should look like this at the end, where there's barely any white spaces. That means it's all together. What you're gonna do, you're gonna slowly incorporate that egg in. This egg will help give our pasta structure to where your sauce is not seeping out all over the sides, and to where you can cut into your pasta and it all holds together. Make sure you give it a good stir, so like I said, you don't end up with scrambled eggs. Okay. So you're gonna go rinse your fork so we can do the next part to go into our sauce. Our ricotta cheese. I add my ricotta cheese to my sauce and also goes in between the layers. This gives it a lighter flavor. You want to use at least like maybe half of the container. And it's gonna look a little pinkish here, but trust me, it tastes good. So just make sure you mix that in there, and it mixes around with that egg as well. So at the end of adding your ricotta cheese, this is what it should look like. It's gonna be like a lighter orange color. Might not be too appeasing, but I promise to you it will taste delicious. And basically that residual heat, after you take it off the eye, it will continue to cook the egg and the ricotta and the sauce all together to make it one. Just make sure you give it a really, really good stir so it all comes together. Okay, so for our next step, we're gonna construct. I'm gonna do an old school way of greasing my pan. This is something that my mom taught me. You take a paper towel, you fold it up real small, take your olive oil, only use like a capful. Just dump that right in the middle. Take your paper towel, just make sure you spread it around on all angles, the sides, the top, just in case it does bubble up, so it doesn't stick to your pan. Okay. So after we greased our pan, just make sure you preheat your oven to 350. Mine's already set and ready to go. So now we're going to start building. Just make sure your hands are clean. I don't really keep gloves on hands, so we're just gonna do it with our hands. So what I like to do, you can always cut and strip what you like, but I like my pasta to be on the sides as well. So I go that way, that way. Like again, if they're too long, you can always cut and tear off any extras. So I do believe I can go at least 4 here. All right. So then I have a bigger spoon for me to spread better. I am going to add my sauce and my meat together. It's up to you how much you want to put in there. It's about how big you want your layers to be. I just like to have one complete bite. Now that our meat is done, we're gonna add some cheese to the top of our layer. Spread that evenly. And then you're just gonna repeat these steps until you get to the very top. But I like to add something special to my topping, so I'll show you guys in a little bit. So something special I like to do with my lasagna, I like to add another layer of ricotta cheese, mix it a little bit together with my sauce. Like, again, it doesn't look that good, but it will taste amazing. So once you get to your top layer, just cover it with pretty much as much cheese as you can. I only use about 2 bags when I make lasagna. Do my first layer of cheese. Let's see. And then, since I did run out, I do have a second bag of cheese. It's okay to mix them together. The more types of cheese you have, the better it tastes. And make sure you cover every single nook and cranny that you have in there. So that should be good right there. Then I like to flavor my crust on the top because it will become crust once it hardens in the oven. So I use Italian seasoning, same seasoning we used in our meats earlier. And then also I like to use Parmesan cheese. Also makes for a better crust on the top, so just shake that on there. Okay, so now we're just gonna pop this in the oven, and about an hour or so, it should be ready.
Name and ice. Can't argue with these lazy bitches, I just raise my price. I'm a boss, I'm a leader. I pull up in my 2-seater, and my mama was a savage. Nigga got this shit from Tina, I'm a savage. Yeah, classy, bougie, ratchet. Yeah.
So after about being in the oven for about an hour or so, this is the final product with a golden crisp topping, and give it about 15 minutes to rest, and you can dig into it and enjoy. Alrighty, see you guys next time.